Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. This is Bub coming at you. Bub's Comics, No Faces Comic Chat. Woohoo! And with me, as always, the one, the only, the both of them, Metarog and DS finally showed up late. Sorry about that, guys. Hey!
Greetings, everyone.
What's up?
Yeah. Boy, way to keep the momentum going there, Roger. We're glad to have you guys. Welcome to the show, coming in with a bang. Yeah.
Wow, nice meme. I like that one.
Yeah, it's a good one. All right, well, we're glad to have you both here. And in the chat, we have already the Tailgaters coming early, Jambo Comics, Collecting Chaos, Heroes to Icon. Metarog's here on time, of course. He says, I'm late. I don't know where he gets that. The Jackson Roy Kirk showing up on time. DS Comics just a minute tardy, but we're still glad to have him. Area 51 is in the house as well. Hey, Mike, how's it hanging? Las Cruces! I tell you what, this guy, every time I put up a haul or something on Instagram, he is quick to comment most on the golden age and the old moldy goldies, and I think he's caught the bug. So I'm looking forward to seeing him bring in some golden age, maybe some early silver age. I think he's got the bug. We'll see. Time will tell. And Bill of Comic Mag Musings. So 90. Look, the chat is 90. Yes, it is. Thank you for joining us. Bill is here. He was making a power play earlier. Sent me a couple of private messages asking that if either of you ever got deathly ill, that we go ahead and pull the plug and let him join. And of course, as you know, he is our #1 financial contributor. So I think one of you might have to take a nap one of these days. We don't know. We'll see how much. He contributes. We got.
I take kickbacks.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not going to say they don't work. I mean, wait, did I say that right? I think I did. And also Roger with his sneaky comments about 2 minutes before we started, or right as we started, since I was a little bit tardy getting the show put together. Rogers went ahead and made a stealth like and comment on my earlier video today, just to remind me that it's a see you tonight at the end of it, as in right now, as in turn on the chat. So here we go.
Was it that obvious?
Yes, sir, it was. And effective, because here I am.
All right.
That'll work. What are you guys going on? What? DS, we want to hear from you. What do you got going on these days?
Well, shoveling snow and shoveling some more snow, cleaning off cars and working in the snow and just enjoying this East Coast weather.
Nice. We're enjoying it along with you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
What do you got going on these days there, Roger?
Well, I'm not shoveling snow, thank God, but it is, for me, very chilly and windy, very windy. And I'm working around the house trying to this was my in-laws' home that I'm living in now, and it's kind of been abandoned for a couple of years, so I'm doing all kinds of repairs and everything. And then, spending a little evenings reading comics and watching videos, living the dream.
Oh, wow. That does sound like a dream. I love it already. Well, since you asked, I'm not doing much these days. We didn't have too much snow here. A couple of inches, nothing to scare me from my 45-minute commute. So went ahead and got that taken care of and worked all day and party all night. That's how we're living life here in the BUB'S boy hole of gratitude, or what? Did we ever name this room? I don't think we named this room yet.
Nope. You have to have a naming stream or something.
Yes, I'll do a naming stream. That sounds like I'm going to name it the naming stream in honor of Roger's meta cave of gratuitous comic pinups.
Well, there's no meta cave right now. It's on hiatus for probably a year or so.
Oh man! So you're just gonna suspend all operations and keep them all in boxes until the final destination is claimed?
Yeah, I have the majority of my collection is accessible, but some of it is not, and I can't really put up posters, things like that. So
Ah, I see. Hey, we got Knights of Old joining us. Hard to find that Walmart parking lot change in the weather, DS. Very true. And as you know, we see Knights of Old. We know it's like watching butter melt, baby. That guy's smooth.
I like how they remember like streams from months, if not a year ago, about DS and his proclivity for finding change in parking.
Yeah, I got to say, though, there's many things I could be admired for and be remembered for. And I feel like the two things I'm most remembered for are scrounging for change in a Walmart parking lot and only having one pair of pants.
Yep. That's right. I'm glad you got those right, because that's what I was going to say. Liam Smallwood's in the house. Slam Comics is here as well. Thank you for joining us. I think that one of the things that I like about that is that when we see DS, or we hear him in this channel anyway, he says lots of things very quickly, and he kind of he throws you a high one and a low one at the same time. So you're picking one up off the ground, one flies over your head, then you jump up to catch that one, and he bowls one under your feet, just to make sure he keeps everybody off balance. But every now and then, the clarity comes through, and that clarity is that he's cheap and that he values comics more than garments. So,
I do. That's very true. You know, it was probably like 2 days ago, Mrs. DS said, "You need to get another pair of jeans." And I said, "Why?" She says, "Well, you can't have just one." And I said, "Why?" She says, "Well, you should get another one." Why? There's no good answer to that. I'm good. I got one. And, you know, look, my job it's not a dirty job, but it gets sort of messy. So I'll wash the jeans over and over, and they last a long time. And then when they get holes, I buy another pair. But it's not the kind of job I have to dress up for or anything. So one pair of jeans, good enough for me. And jeans are not cheap. You know what I mean? So you buy a pair of jeans, it's usually more than most people's pull box. So, you know, there you go.
That's true. That's true.
They're cheap. They're cheap as the Salvation Army, DS.
Yeah, look, here's the weird dichotomy. I am cheap, but I only buy new stuff. I just don't buy much of it. So
there you go. Well, I know some people are a little cross-eyed over this because DS rarely shares what he does for a living. So he gives you a little crumb, and that's that it's not ridiculously messy, but it can get a little splattery. So for those of you who don't know, he works in quality control at a prophylactic factory. Next we got some of the younger viewers are probably Googling prophylactic right now.
Yeah,
right. About that, folks. We got Captain Comics. He knows about them there provos. Werewolf by Lunchtime's in the house as well. I'm going to hear about this later. Collecting Chaos is here. Thank you. Good to have you. And Las Cruces. Yeah, I got some goodies coming up on IG page. I'm telling you, he's caught the bug. He's going to have some gold and silver. I can smell it. Smell it in the air. Speaking of smelling things in the air, Roger, do you remember what our team name is tonight?
I think I do. Monochromatic Monster Men?
Yeah!
Hey.
That's a party. Good job, man. We're proud of you. All right. All right, that's a win. And DS, do you know to what topic we'll be mulling about this evening?
Well, I think it's monochromatic theme, so we're going to be talking about books with two colors.
Yeah, that's right. Or to be more specific,
black and white
color and a lack of color, right?
Yeah, black and white comics. It's a cool topic. I've scoured and I have a couple, but not really that much.
That's exciting. Well, we can still talk about them. There's lots of historical points.
Yeah.
Lots of the watershed events for comics and things of that nature. Gore Vidal is in the house laughing at the younger viewers. And Jackson Roy Kirk's taking a stab at it. He says the monopolistic mongooses. I'm pretty sure they're mongusai, but we'll let them slide on that one. K-Town, Metarog. All right, everybody saying what's up with the Triple M. All right, good to have you all. Let's get started. First, whoever wants to take this can take it. But let's talk a little bit about the early days of comics. When we say comics, Are we talking about comic books, or are we talking about those also black and white comic strips?
Yeah, that would be the way to start, because
you just volunteered, Roger.
Hmm?
You just volunteered. Have at it.
Oh, I did. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously, comic strips. A lot of them were in black and white. In early days, they were all, I think, black and white. So definitely, that's the way that comic books came about, because essentially a comic book was a compilation of comic strips when it first started. And then that was the antecedent to comic books would be the dailies, and they're still going on today, of course. And they started, I think, even in the 1800s, they still had newspaper comics. So yeah, I would start there.
Yeah, I think the old comic strips are the obvious precursor to comic books. Look, art has always been something that mankind has endeavored to do, and I think 1500s, 1600s into the 1700s, you start seeing like illustrations with word bubbles, and I think that's the idea, to tell stories with more visual art incorporated, where a lot of the text is actually characters in the art talking. And that's a distinct change from having like Dark Ages, Middle Ages books where they have illustrations in the books and stuff like that. But once you have the characters in the art actually creating some of the text, I'm not sure when that first came, but for me, that is the point when sort of the comic book embryo came about for the very first time. And then it took a long time until I would say it really became familiar with comic strips in the early 1900s in American newspapers. But prior to that, I've actually done research and tried to track down where's the earliest example of art talking and creating the text. It's traditionally been just stories with illustrations. But when do the illustrations talk and create the text? It's an interesting thing, and I have not been able to find like the earliest example. But there's some in the 1600s. There's some French ones that go pretty far back, and some British ones. So I don't know. That's an interesting question.
Yeah, no, Jackson Roykirk. I did not do any petroglyphs in my past career. I hate to tell you.
I believe he did. He's just lying to you. I was going to show this while DS was talking about it, some of the early British, especially. These are some of the earliest examples of black and white comic strips. It's from 1907, and what we have are some early Sherlock Holmes markup, some boarding school, laughabouts, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of what the kids are doing while they're away, right? So there's a lot of the Brago, the Monk, the Hall Room Boys, Easy Mark Makes Protest. I mean, it's Midsummer Daydreamers. So you have a lot of text going on, but they all seem to be, I don't know what you'd call them, almost like one-liners,
Yeah.
So
I think they were, and the thing is, people need to realize now, I think most of us do in this community, but comic books now, there's a wide array. There's mature audience comics, there's sci-fi comics. Back then, it was purely enjoyment for little kids. It was just something for the little kids when you got the paper. There was something for the little kids. Adults didn't read this stuff for the most part.
Well, see, now, also there were political cartoons as far back as the early 1900s as well.
Yeah.
And those were for adults, but the idea of the strip, the ongoing, that was primarily aimed at children.
Yeah, the political cartoons is cool because they're comic strip-ish, but they're sort of one-offs each week or whatever. It's not a continuing story with characters. But, yeah, I mean, they're comic-related, sure. I mean, when there is no comic books, all this stuff sort of fits in the same category, really.
Yep. Good stuff. That's just some early, just because you mentioned some early 1900s, I happen to have a little book of those, so I thought I'd show those off. I think one of the things that we talk about black and white, and this is for anyone really, I've heard there's some people that have a very adverse reaction to seeing black and white for some reason. They have to have color in their comics or they're completely disinterested. Have you guys found that to be the case for yourselves or anyone that you are familiar with?
Yeah, yes, yes and no. I guess it would be that's not really an answer, I suppose, a cop out. But to me, there are some. I remember early on, like some of these that I'm showing here, independents from back in the '80s and so forth. They had, because it's very expensive apparently to do a 4-color process and much cheaper for an individually financed comic to do it black and white. So a lot of the early independents were doing it that way. And yeah, at the comic shop, a lot of people looked inside and they're like, there's no color in here. You know, this is not like Marvel or DC or Charlton. So they just put it by the wayside. But to me, there are instances where black and white is preferred. Like, for example, I have here, let me see, where is that? Hold on. I have here, The Walking Dead is a good example. Is a good example of a black and white comic that I don't think would work as well in color.
Well, you're aware that they're redoing those, right?
Yes, I know.
And the reissuing is all in color.
I know. I don't think so. I think the kind of visceral experience that you get from the comic works much better in black and white than in color to me.
That's interesting because I looked, and I like black and white comics. I really do. A lot of them, all the Cave Woman books that I collect, those are all in black and white. Almost all. Every now and then there's a special in color. But I have to say that every time I picked up The Walking Dead before, I would put it back down. It's not that the black and white put me off, but I didn't care for the art that much. Like, I didn't feel like the art in that book was exceptional. And sometimes when I look at black and white art, I say, wow, this is something that's very pencil heavy. I think, wow, that's really exceptional. And color would ruin it. Color would just ruin it.
Right.
Yes has a great example going here of this cover, which there is a colorized version, and it's not as good as this one.
Yeah, you're right.
And
my thoughts on it are, I don't like original art because it doesn't have color, but I can appreciate seeing the actual art. It lets you see the art sort of naked, and you can see it better. And something like this with a lot of line work, and I think the type of imagery for me too, like a lot of the original art pages that go for a ton of money, it doesn't visually stimulate me because there's no color. But I like black and white films. I like some black and white art like this. It sort of depends on what it is. But I remember in the 80s picking up comic books, like usually independent stuff, and it had black and white inside, and I would buy it and take it home. And then when I opened it up, I almost always was disappointed that it was in black and white. I was like, oh man, this is a black and white comic. And then I would read them, and it was still good. I think Faust was one I really liked. That was black and white. Been a long time since I've read that, but yeah, it's hit and miss. I think it just depends on, for me, the subject matter a lot. Like darker subject matters, more stark, is black and white's sort of cooler for me. I like black and white films, especially like 1930s noir type films or horror films. But I'm not so big on other films that don't have a darker theme in black and white. So for me, the theme matters a lot, really.
I think that's important too. As Roger was saying, that he liked The Walking Dead in black and white because of how visceral it was. So I guess horror probably helps with black and white because it's a little bit more of a dream state, maybe, or it engages your imagination when there's a lack of color, I think.
Yes.
And makes you kind of work through the art, and it creates something of a bond between you and the story because you're engaging in the creation of it, the finishing of it. And I think that helps.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. That there's always that little bit that leaves to your imagination, and that sometimes you can exaggerate. There could be hyperbole, or it could be subtle, but you're not sure. And that kind of evocative feel is what I like about the 70s Marvel magazines and the sci-fi magazines, horror magazines had that, where, wow, is that a big blood splatter or is that just shadow? You know, that kind of trying to interpret the art.
Yeah, and I think, look, some art styles lend themselves to black and white better than others. I'll just name two examples. One was in the chat, but the first one is like Todd McFarlane original art. Now he is, you know, a massive celebrity name in comics. His original art goes for a ton. A really good artist. I really like him. But without the color, his art, to me, this is just my personal preference, of course. I don't know. It's lacking something without the color, the McFarlane art. But then you get somebody like Frank Miller, who somebody mentioned Sin City. And even aside from that, he's had black and white panels and black and white art other places. His style is much more noir, and he uses heavy shadowing and, you know, a lot of cut lines all over the place. And that really does look good in black and white. I like that in black and white. But when I see original art of McFarlane, I'm like, yeah, it's an awesome piece to own. And, you know, that's obviously, I don't argue with the value. But just to put it on a wall and look at it, it doesn't do it for me without the color. But Frank Miller, a lot of his work does. So it depends on the art style too.
That's true. And then well, I was just going to say, I've been getting some private messages from, let's see, I think it's Comic Mag Musing's lawyer. And he is telling me that I'm contractually obligated to acknowledge this $3 donation.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it.
So here's the
I didn't even see it.
Yeah, there's the $2. And I think he's cracked the code to get his absolute favorites of these put together, because there's the $2 and there's the 1. So he's figured it out. It's his favorite, using his guerrilla tactics to get all 3 in the way he likes it. So congratulations, Bill. We thank you. Thanks for keeping the lights on over at the No Faces Comic Chat. All right. Contractual obligation secured, and we're moving on. Good stuff. I tell you, somebody had mentioned some Chrome work. I don't totally agree with that. A lot of the underground books are black and white. That is not some of the best art you've ever seen, or at least not to me. No. But the subject matter and the comedy of it is where it's at. And it certainly has its own value as far as the history of it, and also just how completely it was not trying to copy mainstream comics in any way whatsoever. It was doing its own thing completely. So that's
underground art. Crumb is quality art. He has a very distinctive style, and it really is enjoyable. I have some reprints of Crumb stuff. Really, really fun stuff. But yeah, it's off the beaten path. It's not like anything else out there. But I like his art style, and I think he's a very talented artist. And it's decent in black and white. But there's some of that stuff I almost would like to see it in color, but some of it's okay. It's dark because there's a lot of taboo subjects he covers. I don't know. The black and white works for his stuff, but it's independent publishers. It was back then when he was doing it. They would print him out of his house with his buddy Charles Plymouth and just walking around with a cart around California selling them. So they didn't have. It's expensive to do 4 colors.
It is, and it's I think I had read that the original reason that they did Walking Dead in black and white is just because it was so much cheaper that they knew that the story would be better if they could get a couple of issues out right away, as opposed to waiting to see if the first or second or third issue would hit.
Yeah.
And they figured they could spend the money for the same money to produce twice as much comics as they would to produce 3 color comics. So why not go ahead and produce 6 and say, hey, look, here's a good story, get into it and have people enjoy it for the same amount of money. And they were offered that once it took off, they were offered the chance to colorize it, and they turned it down for the same reason. They said, what if this doesn't last and people don't like it as well later? It would be cheaper to leave it in black and white, and that way the publisher has more incentive to keep this title going with less interference because it was costing less money. So more likely to take hold, for financial reasons and less likely to be canceled. So that was their strategy, and I mean, obviously, it paid off.
Yeah. The same thing happened with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That started in black and white, and then about issue 8 or so, they started some colorization. I don't remember the exact issue, but the same kind of process. I mean, at first, it was just exorbitant expensive, and these were just two guys out of their garage, in Indiana or somewhere. And so it's in a sense it's a good thing to have that option, because otherwise some of the comics that the independents that we love today would never have come around, probably, if they had to buy a whole coloring process. It just wouldn't have been financially feasible.
That's very true. So lots of reasons that a publisher would like black and white. I mean, it's frees up the color department, frees up resources, and they can just keep, spewing that stuff out there. And if it doesn't take hold, they can let it wait and sit. If it keeps getting better, then put it back, keep rolling it. It's good stuff, it makes sense. And I've not been a one. Some art needs to be in black and white, it would seem, for the shading and such. But a lot of art that is in black and white could very easily be colored. When you look at some of these computerized type, books that they're putting out now, they don't need to be in black and white. And some of the covers, like the cover that DS has up there right now, that was clearly a true sketch cover, right? It was truly sketched and then colorized afterwards. Whereas some of them are just like they take the color away and they just pretend that it's a sketch outline, but it's not the actual progression of the work. And some of those, I'm talking about like the black and white sketch covers, they say, oh, it's a sketch cover. But it's not really a sketch cover. It's just the ink lines without color. Yeah. You don't see any of the stray pencil marks. You don't see any of the shading or the etching that they do with the pencil. It's just a colorless copy, almost like you should take a box of crayons and finish the job for them.
Yeah, when Silvestri drew this, I think he had it in mind I think they're like, do a sketch, we'll do black and white, and we'll do a color version too, but it's almost like he wanted the black and white to be the special one. Because there's a lot in this that with color is lost, and there would be no point in adding these lines if it's going to be in color. You can see he's colored the parts he wanted with heavy shading, cross-hatching, and a lot of lines. And it's clear that he intended this to be a work of art in black and white initially. No one would use that many lines if it was going to be in color. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, of course, they released the color one, and then this is the variant. And then let me show you from this one. This is Vincent Locke. This is from the 80s. I used to have this long ago, and then I just picked this up again recently. It's sort of like a reader copy. Dead World's from 89 or something. But Vincent Locke is, I don't know, he's not real well known. I was into like heavy metal when I was younger and stuff, and he did Cannibal Corpse album covers too. So, I mean, I basically know him from this and Cannibal Corpse. But I think he did some other stuff in the comic world, maybe like, I think he worked on Batman at one point or something. But this is black and white, but he uses a ton of shading and cross-hatching and so much black on these pages.
Wow.
And then, like, this is a zombie story, so it fits good. But let me show you some of these pages, and you can just see how much black there is on these pages.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, great stuff.
There's no room color there.
Yeah, this is the leader of the zombies, I guess, coming in here.
Looks like Jerry Garcia.
Yeah, here's a cool interior full page panel here. Pretty good artist, and you can see with look how much the cross hatching. He's working in black and white, and his style is perfect for it. Like I wouldn't want this in color because you lose the effect of this stuff.
And you have to know that when he's working that hard on it, that he never intends it to be colored. Like, this is all it's going to get.
I mean, look at this, mostly all ink. I mean, I assume this page when he drew it was just like sopping wet.
Very cool.
Yeah, excellent.
So yeah, that's Vincent Locke, and it's mostly, not mostly black, but I mean, there's another page in here. And you can see how much black he uses in the black and white. So yeah, this is an example of artwork that really looks good in black and white because he's using black and white, whereas opposed to like a McFarlane cover art, I feel like it's missing something because some art is drawn to have color added and some isn't. And the stuff that isn't is you can tell it apart very easily from the stuff that's supposed to have color most of the times. So it makes a difference.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. I've got this, like some of these, this is Liberty Meadows. I think this is pretty cool. If you guys have never opened up or seen a Liberty Meadows book. So this was Frank Cho's comic strip that he did in a newspaper, right? And then they collected them and put them in, comic strip form still, but into a comic like serialized. So this is number 35. I think it goes up to 37 or so, but it actually has staples on the top, or what would be the top if you were oriented that way. And then it has the actual comic strips in there, and they didn't colorize them. They just left them black and white. So it's really neat. I really enjoy comic strips to read because it's fast. Like I can pick one up, I can turn to a page, read it, put it down, and be done. And then 2 weeks later, I can pick it up again and read the next couple of pages, put it down, and be done. I like the I don't know if it's a short attention span or what, but whatever it is, it works for me. So it's really neat how they did that kind of long ways,
Yep.
And all the Liberty Meadows are like that. Very, very fun little run. I'm not working on the whole run though. I'm gonna collect in trade. I'm going to collect them in trades, and I'm going to just pick out the covers that I like the best and seek those out.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've been keeping my eyes out for years looking for a Liberty Meadows 1. It's such a rare book. It actually goes for a fair amount, and I've just never come across one yet. But if anybody comes across a Liberty Meadows number 1, it's sort of a valuable, tough to find book.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be seeking one out. Plus, there's multiple reprints of it, like 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th editions. So I'll probably just pick one of those up and call that a day.
Yeah.
What do you got there, Roger? Oh no, Fudgetoid. Isn't that from the Turtles too?
Yeah. The Gray Man says it should be Fugitoid because he was a fugitive. So I've been calling him Fugitoid, but for years I called him Fudgetoid. But yeah,
but he wasn't a fugitive in his first appearance.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't.
So I don't think that would hold.
But he was soon after, though. But this is actually, he crosses over into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 5, I do believe. Yeah, there he is right there.
Wow.
So that is a comic which has some crossover appeal to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But interesting that you guys were talking about the Liberty Meadows. I never knew that. I thought those were original stories. I've never actually opened one, like you said. I've never had one because obviously that's not the kind of comic that I usually buy. But it's interesting that comic strip reprints, it sort of come full circle, right? Because we started with the comic strips even back in the Yellow Kid era in the late 1800s. And then those continued on, but then somebody got the idea, and I forgot who, of, hey, let's put all those into a book and sell them. Because remember, these were included in newspapers, so forth, that you didn't really buy it for that reason. Now that was the reason that you bought it, was a compilation of strips, like the spirit sections that were in dailies, and they were compiled, and also like your Dick Tracy stuff that was compiled later on. I think it's interesting that has sort of that stuff which was free, quote unquote, was compiled together and sold as a whole different entity later on, and it was something that people, obviously you didn't see it unless you were around in the 20s and 30s, and all of a sudden it's like a new phenomenon. And going back to that, like the Spider-Man, you were talking about the comic strips that you could read, and then come in 2 weeks later. Spider-Man had a very serialized, almost soap opera-ish kind of strip where if you missed something, there was a plot line that you had to pick up somewhere down the line. So it's just interesting, the little nuances of the black and white strips to the compilation of strips to the new original art that we now know as comic books.
Yeah, and I think initially when they did, the first comic books were, as we're saying, collections of comic strips. It was just reprinted material. I think at first they were just trying to drum up some extra money, and they weren't really sure what to do with these things, and they tried different avenues. They had newspaper inserts. Those were very popular. They would license some stuff to companies that would include it with their products, and you would buy something and get one of those. And then they would also sell them individually. And then it was a few years before they actually started to have, a monthly comic book with new material that came out every month. So it was several years of sort of comic book type stuff coming out before somebody said, hey, let's just have one of these come out every month with new material. So it wasn't an obvious thing right off the bat. At first, it was just collections of strips and figuring out where to best sell those. So there's an interesting time period there where nobody really had come up with the idea to have new material in a comic book every month by itself. So it's interesting.
Yeah, probably what like More Fun Comics, I think, or what the right at the beginning before they became DC, they did those big comic books that had the compilations, and then somebody had the idea, hey, if this is selling, why not try new stuff? And then that's where Action Comics and all that stuff came on later on. But I don't know where that little transition came and who actually, I don't know if it was Wheeler Nicholson or somebody else way back when who said, hey, let's try this new stuff. I don't know, but that's that.
Well, I think one of the companies that was really sort of on the cutting edge of innovating in the comic book sort of early era was King Features Syndicate, who had Popeye. Now, they had a lot of popular comic strips. They're a pretty big media company. And I believe they were the ones that put out King Comics. One of the very earliest comics to start coming out was King Comics. And that was their publication. And, they ran a lot of features, and Popeye, when they started running that, like 1929, became their super popular character. And so they're like, we could do something else with this. And other places where other publishers were trying stuff too. And I think King Comics is one of the earliest, along with Famous Funnies, More Fun, and I think there's one called New Comics. So a lot of like just sort of regular titles, because there were still, the comic strips were the main thing, and they were just adding on this other thing that they were using later, which blossomed to define the genre of comic books. And yeah, comic strips lasted still up till today, but the comic books quickly took over as the most popular medium for comics. But I think comic strips were intended even back then. They were the big player, and then let's make some other money putting out these compilations and these other newspaper inserts and stuff.
Yeah, and they were also putting things out overseas, and to colorize something, go through all that. So people that were away at war were looking at black and white comic strips and being entertained with comics in their magazines, or in their news flyers or weeklies and such. They were exposed to a lot of that. Of course, I'm always going to not miss a chance to pull out some good Popeye Tijuana Bible action.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
But I mean, these are all black and white for sure, and red all over. So anyway, I can't show too much of that. Roger will have an aneurysm, but yeah. So there's some of that, right? And then you also have now this is actually a collection. So here's Canon, and I have the whole run of this and Sally Forth, but there's really this is the only one that I can show.
Yeah.
For this particular hour of my channel. So, but these are actually collections. These aren't original prints. I mean, it's the first time they were collected, but originally they were in serviceman newspapers that went overseas. Overseas Weekly is what it was called.
Mm-hmm.
Overseas Weekly and Wally Wood drew full page panel work, and they were to be continued for the next Overseas Weekly. Should enough servicemen live to get the next issue, then then they got that. They also had a stateside edition for Cannon and Wally Wood, and for Sally Forth. And then I was also going to mention a couple of things that I don't think we've touched on yet, but the advent of fanzines. So the idea and adzines too. So the idea that you had these very stark ink, and a lot of these would have original covers. So here's a great Plug Man Thing, and Roger always likes seeing my Man Thing. You see that, Roger?
Yeah, yes, I do.
All right. Now you do enjoy a good Man Thing every now and then, don't you?
I do enjoy the character, and it's.
All right, that's enough, Roger. That's all right. We understand. But this is Rocket Blast comic.
RBCC
comic collectors, yeah. So it's got a lot of great black and white art in it. And it's got some photos and stuff too, but just great stuff, illustrations, and of course they knew it was going to be printed black and white, so that's what you get. This is one of the Star Trek episodes, but I mean, look at all that good stuff. Isn't that cute? So good stuff there. And then, like I said, you got here's some Wally Wood art. And they were able to do, I mean, that's got so much ink on it. Like DS said, this page is probably dripping wet for a week, and he was done inking this. But you got Wally Wood with Daredevil, of course, missing the 2 Ds, right? Because you had to be careful. So Daredevil there. And then, what was his name? Thunder. Is it Thunder?
Well, that guy there, that was, no, it's not No Man. No, it's
Dynamo, yes. Dynamo. So there's good stuff. And then you've got some Adam Strangelove here. I believe this is a Zek cover, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really? You have a Zek Adam Strange?
Yeah.
That's real cool.
I'm loving
I didn't
that.
know he did that. I didn't know he did that.
Man, he is such an underrated artist. I know everybody knows who he is. But, he's done so much awesome stuff. He's really, really top notch, and he's underrated.
Yeah.
Oh, check out his Master of Kung Fu work. It is obscenely good.
Look at that. Is that Hogarth? That looks like Hogarth to me.
Rick Hoberg?
No, Bern Hogarth is who I was.
Bern Hogarth. Yeah, okay.
Just the anatomy of it looks like it to me. It might not be. I have to do my homework on that before I start saying.
Yeah, Hogarth's most famous for his Tarzan stuff in the 30s, 40s.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that is, the idea that you had these magazines that in the same vein, right? I mean, a lot of these are done on typewriters. Like when you read the pages in here, it's like done with a typewriter. It's just,
Yep, they're mimeographed. They had the roller.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was cheap. I mean, that was a lot of the catalogs from back in the 70s were that way. That people would roll them off, and it cost you next to nothing, just the ink and paper, essentially.
Yeah, and you could continue to make more of them as demand was needed. You just run through another one.
Yep, it just made it made like a negative or whatever on a roller, and you just kept rolling the thing off.
Well, good stuff.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people in the chat talking about, similar to the stuff you just brought up, Bob, about a lot of the, I guess they're called fanzines from the 70s, like the Creepy, the Eerie, the stuff like that, the Warren Publications and Skywalds and stuff. Those have a lot of pages, and the artists in there are a lot of names that you would know from comic books. Also did a lot of art inside those things. And I think you can see their style is very conducive to black and white, especially like the horror artists from the 70s. The Plugs, the Wrightsons, guys like that. Frazetta even. That stuff is very conducive to black and white, their art style. And they're drawing a lot of that stuff to be black and white, as opposed to the stuff that doesn't wow me when you have like a Kirby page of original art come up for auction and go for whatever amount of money. It's like, it doesn't look as good, but yes, historically significant and valuable. But That's like Kirby was drawing it, knowing he's working with a colorist. He has color in mind when he's doing most of his drawings. So it's evident, I think. A lot of Frazetta stuff is black and white, and he's drawing it to be black and white. So you can almost tell there's a different feel to something that's meant to be black and white than something that's meant to have color, and you just leave it black and white as original art or something.
I don't have a copy of it, but I think one of the finest works of black and white that was clearly meant to be black and white is Wrightson's Frankenstein.
Yeah, I don't have that yet. I need it.
I mean, that is just so beautiful. So many lines. I mean, it's amazing. They all look like extreme. There's no white space. It's all taken. It's all filled. It's all heavily used. Waste no space. It's just really something. That piece there. Someday I'll have one. I don't know that I'll have an original, but I would like to. But gosh,
you know what's holding me back? I want that. Obviously, I'm a huge Wrightson fan. You guys know that. I definitely am going to get a copy of that. But the reason I haven't yet is because I don't know what version I want. You know what I mean? I don't know if I want to spend a little extra and get the original first edition of it, or if I want to get a later printing. They also have paperback. Paper covers of it, soft cover or whatever. So I'm just not sure what version I want to get. That's something I'm really going to take some time to figure out before I get it, because I have never read it yet. So I want to settle on the one I want to own and then get into it. So I've been thinking about that for a couple of years. I just haven't decided which one to get.
I think you've got I don't think you can lose. Like I think whichever one you choose, you can win, and that's kind of where I'm at. I'm hoping to kind of come across one someday. Is that pie in the sky stuff? Is there any chance that I just happen upon this?
I think JD found one like for $20.
Yeah, he did.
Oh my gosh, that makes me sick. And I think that was the second copy of it. No less.
Yeah. So it can happen if people don't know what they got and you run across it in a estate sale or something. It can happen.
Yeah, and the other problem is also as part of my decision process, if I get too good of a one, I won't want to spend a lot of time handling it either, because it's kind of valuable. It will be a valuable addition to my collection if it's like an unread mint condition first edition. I won't want to. I'll be very careful with it. So maybe I just want to get a worthless sort of low end copy just to. So I don't know. Maybe I'll just end up getting both, one to enjoy and one to sort of put away. Because I feel like
that's a very good point.
A copy of that.
You're going to want to read it and read it over.
Yeah, definitely. Right. I mean, I still got that sealed Frazetta slipcase thing. I haven't opened it. I cannot bring myself to open it because it's in factory seal and it's mint condition. I can't bring myself to open it.
I thought you opened that already. I
can't bring myself. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? I should open it? Because look, you're never ever going to find another copy of that sealed. And the seal itself, if you had, I guess they have seal ratings for stuff like this. It's like A+ seal rating.
Oh my god!
The book inside is mint. The seal is mint and tight and unripped. It's perfect. It's perfect condition. We'll never find another one like that. So I don't want to open it up, but I do want to open it up. So it's still here. I haven't opened it, but it's mint. It's mint sealed. So I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Wow. That's
Jambo's telling me open it, or every single person is telling me to open it. And I guarantee some of these people, if they had it, they would be hesitant to open it. But since they don't have it, they want me to open it. Everybody said open it.
They're not risking anything.
And I don't know what it's worth. I mean, I have it out there at a crazy price. So I have no idea what it's worth. But I know you can't find another one like it. It's probably, and that was limited edition, like 2,500 or something. I perhaps have the best sealed copy of that in existence. And I'm hesitant to crack it open. So I don't know. Area 51, thank you. He's saying don't do it.
Don't do it.
What? Is he? Like that comment hadn't even popped up. I'm not even sure it's up there.
and Jimmy says, "Oh, it's just a book, man."
Yeah, it's just a book. Open that.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. Look, I have it for a crazy price, and it's sort of I don't want to sell it price. But meanwhile, I'm not in a hurry because once you open it, you can never go back. So right now, it can exist in both states. It's unopened with the potential of opening it. But if I open it, the potential to have it unopened is gone. So
why don't you make 2 listings? Here's my early thought, right?
yeah.
You should make 2 listings for the same item and mark one as unopened and one as opened. And if someone bites on the opened copy, then open it yourself, read it yourself, enjoy it, and then ship it off. What? I think that's a solid strategy, Roger. What are you laughing at?
Well, you could do that now. You could open it, read it, and then put it off.
If he gives him that big money for the unopened one, and he wants to take it, then take it. But if somebody
I've got it. I've got it in a bag. So if I take it out of this bag, it's sealed, perfectly sealed in there, and it's a slipcase. And it's limited edition. It has some previously unused Frazetta art in it, and it's just
allegedly. You don't really know until you open it, DS.
I know.
Yeah,
you
can never be
probably
sure.
buy an opened copy and keep the opened copy and read it, and then I'll have this one.
You can never be sure. There could be a variant of kind of slipcase. It could be that misprint in there. You never know.
Yeah, it's got a signature in it too. I don't think it's a real signature, a reproduced signature or something.
Right.
It's got some extras in it. So yeah, it's cool.
That would be killing me. That would be killing me day and night to have that sealed.
See Jimmy saying how much DS? Don't trust him. He's going to try and work up a fund where we all pitch in, and then we just pay you to open it.
Yeah.
The DS opening slipcase fund, yes.
Yeah, I don't know how much. I don't know. I've had it out there. People can send me an offer. I have it on eBay at a really high price just in case. I've been offered $400 for it, and I turned it down. I feel like it's worth more than that in this condition. So I don't know. Anyway, but I've been offered $400, and I didn't pay that much for it. But I'm hesitant to give this away for $400. So I'll never find another one. This is probably the best condition one ever that's in existence right now. So anyway, that's that.
You got one on the hook now. Jimmy the Geek, he's going to buy it and open it himself. So if I were you, I'd make a small slit in it, open it, put it back in, then sell it to him. He'll be so excited on Christmas. It'll be like Christmas morning. He's just going to tear into it anyway. He won't notice the pre-cut slit.
Well, if I do open it, you guys will be the first to see it because it'll be shown off in this community. I would do a special video for that.
Nice. Not paying 900. Like Jimmy's a player, but he ain't a player at 900.
He started the negotiating process already.
Right. I know. Look, 900. I know 900 is high, but nobody's bought it yet, and I'm sort of glad. But if somebody does, I'll be all right with it. It would be a hardcore Frazetta fan with money that wants a perfect unopened copy of that. So, I know 900 is high. I get
Here's
it.
what that price suggests to me. That price suggests to me that you only want to sell this to someone who's not going to open it also. Because if you thought that someone was going to buy it and open it, then you wouldn't sell it because you'd rather do that yourself.
Yeah, the idea in that price is that somebody wants to buy it to keep it sealed. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, if I open it and enjoy it and read it, I would resell it for, I don't know, probably $200 or $180 or whatever. I don't know. But unopened, it's, there might be somebody out there that wants that to stay sealed. I don't know. I've considered sending it to Heritage and just seeing what it gets. But I'm not in a hurry. It's super cool. I have an unopened Fantasy Firsts too, which I'm not as keen about opening because it's just got reprints of all the first appearances of the Marvel superheroes, but super cool. And that was limited edition leather slipcase, and I have that sealed in mint condition also. And that I'm only asking like $185. So you can tell how much I like the Frazetta over just the payment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Collecting Chaos wants to throw a monkey in your wrench. Says it could be a misprint full of blank pages.
That's true, man. Wouldn't that be something? I don't know if that'd be better or worse.
I know, right? I think that'd be even higher value, but then you have to open it to find out.
Yeah.
I think it's still worth more sealed. I don't know. Is it at least in Mylar?
Yeah, I've got it in a poly.
Oh,
But the plastic around it is that cheap plastic cellophane anyway, so what's the difference?
Yeah, it's a
That's
shrink.
a acid. Save that book. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. It's been in that plastic for. I mean, the thing came out in like 1991 or something. I mean, it's like 30 years old now.
I still have those cheap 3-pack poly bags from back in the early 70s, and those are still intact. So,
yeah, I think unopened sealed stuff is cool. It doesn't always make it more valuable, but it always is cool. You know, I like those old. I just until sort of recently had a couple of those. Or they 3-packs that they sealed in the 80s and early 90s, the Pedigree, whatever it was called.
yeah, Pedigree, yeah.
Yeah. When they had like what Fantastic Four 350 in there or something, that white embossed cover or whatever that is, and some other crap. But yeah, it's cool to find that still sealed.
Yeah. Now, at least tell me that the interior of that unopened book is black and white.
The Frazetta one is not. It has color illustrations.
Why have we been talking about it for the last 15 minutes?
I don't know.
He's hijacked the stream, Roger.
I didn't say anything because it was I love talking about that. The subjects like this.
It ties in though, Bob, because Frazetta was really good with his black and white stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we'll never know. Roger, what do you got showing up there? Super Spider-Man.
Well, you know, this is actually I wasn't going to bring this out, but when you had said you talked about overseas, how certain things were sent overseas.
Yeah,
and this is something which is interesting because over in the UK they did receive the actual issue, Marvel issues, the vast majority of them, you know, months later, right? But it's the exact same comic with a slight different banner. It says all color in the 70s. But later on, they actually had their own publication where they reprinted comics in black and white. So this is magazine size. I bought these off of first edition. Paul, I hope he's doing well.
Yeah, I was thinking about him today.
Yeah, me too. I haven't seen him. I'm going to send him a message. I haven't heard from him in a while. And these are just cool stuff because you just don't see these. Of course, in the UK, it's like, you know, I'm sure it's common as dirt. But here, it's pretty cool. And what I like about it is the first page is actually the inside cover.
Okay? Oh, wow.
And when you compare this to the color version, you can see, you know, just how stark the difference is. But I actually kind of prefer this to a lot of the different comics that are colorized because they're just a richer color strike on the actual. I mean, it's not color. The ink strike, right, is actually richer and deeper. You know, so you get to see a little more detail here and there than you can with the colorized versions. So I just thought I'd share that because when you said overseas, this came to mind.
Yeah, that's very cool.
So if you guys if you guys see these around, pick them up because especially when you compare them, and they usually have a newer comic and an older. I mean, not a newer, but a newer reprint and an older reprint. Like here, you've got a Gene Colan cap, probably from the early 70s, late 60s. You know, the black and white kind of phenomenon is cool because it's cheaper. It must be much cheaper to print this, but unless you were collecting comics in the 70s and the 60s, you probably never read these. So it's brilliant to me to repackage this. And these were weeklies, I believe. So they came out, week ending November 17th, 1978. So you would get these every week. So it's not like you have to wait a month for the next issue. So cool concept that the UK came up to reprint these comics, I thought.
Yeah, I like it. So that's mag size, right?
Yes, correct. Mag size. Here, I'll for comparison's sake.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's cheating because that's not a standard comic that you're comparing it to.
Yeah, but it's even bigger than that.
It's pretty close.
It's bigger than that.
It's pretty close. Yeah, it's pretty close. You're right. It's pretty close though.
Nice.
If I put the walk in here.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. It's about, I'd say it's about 80% or so, 85% of it. Yeah, right around there.
Nice.
So anyway, but I don't know. It just came to mind when you said that about the overseas, because you know, they, again, the foreign comics are a whole nother kind of different topic, but a lot of those are just so cool, and some of them are just they're presented in very drastically different ways than here in the U.S.
Have we done a foreign comics? I think we have. It's probably been a couple of years though.
It's been a while. I don't recall if we did.
Yeah, I remember we discussed it at some point, because if you'll remember, I think we talked about it at some point last year, but I don't think it was the main topic.
Well, thanks, Roger. Join us this week on the No Faces Comic Chat, where we'll be discussing foreign comics.
I do have a few, not many, but I do have a few.
Yeah, that market's gotten pretty popular. Those books have gotten pretty popular. They some of them sell for a ton. I don't know what I think about it. I feel like as they become more popular, they become less rare, because they're not really as rare as people think. They're just not here. But
right.
As the price goes up, you see more of these international sellers and people putting them out there on eBay or wherever else, Facebook groups and stuff. And then you see a lot more show up. And I don't consider like the Canadian stuff and the Pence copies to be in the same group, because those have always been around and people like those.
Yeah.
But like Mexican editions, Italian editions, Japanese editions of stuff, you know, South American, that kind of stuff, they've really become popular. People are seeking out particular ones. And a lot of times what they'll do is these foreign editions will have several issues together in one thicker book with a different looking sort of, it's the same cover, but with like a different color scheme or something. Like the Italian ASM 300 is a black cover. And that one's one of the most popular ones. And then some of the pre-code horror stuff, like the Mexican editions, it'll have a different title or something, and it will use an image from one book and a title from another book. Sometimes the Brazilian stuff is different color schemes entirely. Like they have some LB Cole PCH books. So a lot of the Spider-Man books are different. Yeah, they're pretty popular these days. I'm not sure what to think of it.
I don't know. I like personally. I'm not knocking anybody's collection, because everybody collects what they want to collect, and it's all fun. I have collected a few that are like strictly overseas books, and some I've just picked up as cover buys, like some of the Mexican reprints that have the foil covers on the front. I really like the holographic foils and stuff like that of classic, you know, first appearances and stuff like that. I really like those a lot. And then every now and then there'll be a print that comes out, like a La Mole, you know, variant or whatever. And those will be in another language, but the covers are still in English. I like that. But my favorite thing is when something actually travels over there, like a Pence stamp, and then gets sent back over.
Yeah,
like I appreciate that way much more than something that was actually printed somewhere else or was printed for another market. Like I like when the book was meant to be here, goes somewhere else, gets stamped, and comes back. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I agree. I have a few of those. Double transatlantics is what I call them.
Oh, wow. I didn't know there was such a cool term for it.
Because
holy moly.
They made it from here to across to Europe, and then somehow it came back. So to me, that's pretty amazing. I put in as an aside, I put in a link here to a channel. He's called Ken Worthing, and he has a collection of foreign comics from Brazil, from Greece, from Italy, et cetera, et cetera. So if anybody's interested in foreign comics, this is the guy that you'll want to watch. Unfortunately, I'd love to have him as a guest, except he's in the UK, and you know it would be very late. But he would be the guy if we had a foreign comics chat. That would be the guy that I would select for that.
That sounds good. I like it.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a growing market in that stuff. I think it's still yet to be determined, like what's going to hold value and demand and what isn't. But I definitely think the foreign editions of American comics, where they've changed the cover art to some degree, to make it unique to that country are definitely the cooler ones to me than just like, you know, another country exactly reprinting a book. They're still cool to own, but I don't, you know, like a Pence copy of, I don't know, like X-Men 1. It's never going to reach the value of an X-Men 1.
Now, look, you save all this salty hot take commentary for next week. Huh? How about that? We'll have to deal with this next week, you guys. You guys are so good about rolling into the new topics. Next week on the No Faces Comic Chat, we'll be discussing foreign comics, and I'm going to go back, rewind this, and find out what the heck Roger called them, and that's probably going to be some bastardized version of our team name as well.
Well, we're definitely going to get thumbs down and negative comments because my personal collecting tastes on this stuff is I stick to American because of a sense of sort of there's a national pride in me as part of a collector of comics. So I'm not interested in foreign stuff at all because I'm only interested in American comics. So it's sort of like, you know, I don't know what you want to call it, but people always sort of rag on me about that because there is cool stuff out there. I'm not going to get into it because I just stick to American versions of stuff.
All right. Well, we'll still allow you to participate next week. How about that?
I appreciate that, Bub.
All right, you guys, let's shut her down. We've been rolling for over an hour. Poor Mike's got to put the kids to bed, the grandkids to bed, or the neighbor's kids off his lawn or something like that. And we'll be back next week on the No Faces Comic Chat. Roger, what do you got coming up on your fine channel? A channel in flux, I hear. So what's the grand story on that?
A little bit. This Thursday is going to be the comic book roundup as usual, but it's going to be every other Thursday from now on because I want to. I just don't have the ability because my wife is working day and night and using Wi-Fi, and I have to carve out little times like now to use the Wi-Fi. So I'm not able to do like the Tuesdays and the Saturdays as much as I want to. So every other Thursday is going to be a special video. The ones I usually did on Tuesdays, I will show some complete collection or focus on a character or some kind of obscure aspect.
Yes, that's what I call it. Tuesday, delve into the obscura.
Yeah, right. So that'll happen every other Thursday. But this Thursday is going to be the roundup. But keep watching because every other Thursday there'll be a little special kind of video in between.
Awesome. And then DS, what do you have coming up on your fine Chanel?
Nothing really. I got nothing. I just do random videos here and there. I don't really have like a YouTube brand. I don't plan stuff ahead. I mean, I'll do an unboxing. I got a CGC box that'll come back at some point. I'll do an unboxing on that, and I'll just, if something strikes my fancy on a particular day or week, I'll do a video on it. But yeah, I just use it's just a way to just sort of connect with the community. I don't really plan anything or have any like long-term plans for the channel. Yeah, and this is why I never get a ton of subs added or anything, and I don't do videos very often anymore. So I don't have anything planned. Who knows?
Well, I was thinking of about your channel and what we could do to grow it, and Roger had a really good idea, and he basically said that, oh no, what happened? Oh no, Roger, you can't stay now, Roger? What's happened?
Apparently not.
You got to go. All right.
So.
Roger's got to go, everybody. Liz is, excitable. So we're going to let him park the poodle and take care of business. And we'll catch you all next week. DS, what do you want to tell the fine folks at home?
Make sure you do your homework.
Good man. And Roger?
Hey, B&B, be blessed and be back.
Ooh, I like that with the hip slang he's got.
Yeah, I'm super hip.
Oh, don't I know it? And I'll just tell everybody to read a comic and don't apologize for the glare. Bye-bye.